Hi and welcome back. So this is the 9th guide of the Kerbal Space Program beginner's guide. So since the last time I played, so you would have seen the last time it was doing with flying by the moon and going back to Kerbal. This time, since that last one, I did a few small missions again. So just the testing missions you've seen before. I'm not going to do them in game because it's just following the instructions. They're not that difficult. Just like flying to a certain height or using the object at a certain height and so on. Since then, so I made a bit of extra cash, not much more than the last video, and a bit more science point. And since then, I've added I've researched one more node, which is the electrics node. In this case, which is giving me just a few things. So it's giving me a few lights, a few lamps, exterior lamps that I can put on the spacecraft. These spotlights, these two here, so the dome light and the spotlight are new to me. I just know these two, the illuminators. So I'll be interested to see what they look like. A thermal control system. So that's, yeah, just to make sure that you can cool your vehicle if it was needed in space. There'll be certain things you'll need that for later. I can't think of anything right now that's that necessary for. Just good to have. A new battery. So we've got the other battery that looks like it's like two AA batteries in massive sizes. It's a round battery, so it's just more aerodynamic, and it has more power as well, which is pretty cool. I think the one has an electric charge of 50, maybe 100. This one's got 200. But it's easier to stack, and yeah, it's just aerodynamic. We now also have solar panels, which is excellent. That means when we're in space, we can actually recharge our batteries. So for longer missions, that's a necessity, because if you do end up sending data back to Kerbin, it'll burn a lot of your battery, and you don't want to get stranded out in space. So this can recharge even if you do get stuck with no power. After a few hours of sunlight, direct sunlight, it should help you there. And finally, we have a new drone, which is called the Probodobodyne Octo. So what's good about this one in comparison to the what's the other one called, the Steputnik? This one allows us to set the SAS. This one has SAS control, so your vehicle won't be spinning out of control if you don't have a pilot on board. So that's brilliant. So I'm happy to have that. So I've already unlocked that. Leaves me 147 science. Don't really need anything else at the moment, even though I would afford it. I'm just going to leave it for now. We're going to have a look at what missions are available to me. So we'll go to the mission control. I've already selected a few. These are the ones that are available. Okay. So yeah, I've selected a few, but I've got a bit of problems with my game. Something's not working right, but I'll figure that out. These 3 missions are to do with space planes, or just planes in general, rather to do with rockets. But for some reason, these aren't working for me. So yeah, I'm stuck on them for one, but that's fine. I've got space to do it. And the other 2, well, the splashdown one didn't work for me either, but I'll figure that out. And I've got this one to do as well. But I've got a new one that's quite interesting. So since I did the moon missions, I've got a few newer missions to do, which is pretty cool. So one of them is explore the moon, which will be doing soon enough. That will be landing on the moon and returning to Kerbin from the surface of the moon. So that's quite interesting, and it gives us gives us good money, and overall it will give us extreme amount of science points. So we'll be able to build so much better ships, and going to the moon and back will end up being something that will be very straightforward. But there's one here, good mission that I like here. Position a satellite in equatorial orbit of Kerbin. So yeah, I want to be doing that one. So it tells me, yeah, I've got do an orbit around Kerbin, apoapsis, the periapsis, inclination. So it's giving me all the information I need. These numbers look a bit more complicated than they are, but like as we've seen before, so inclination 0 degrees, that just means that we're flying. So if we take off Kerbin from the launch site and just go immediate east as we have been doing, we'll end up in the 0 degrees inclination. So that's pretty easy. Apoapsis, that just means the distance where the apoapsis should be in the periapsis. So yeah, that's the furthest part from, or the highest part of the orbit, and that's the lowest part of the orbit. That's the orbit this mission wants me to do. Makes it sound a bit complicated, more complicated than it is, but I'll show you in a second. It's actually not that difficult. Okay, so what's it asking me to do here? So build an unmanned probe. that has an antenna and can generate power. See, that's why we had to unlock the part of the tree that we just did, because generate power, that means I need a solar panel for that, an antenna, and an unmanned probe. So the probe Odobodyne will help me there. Antenna I already had. The probe must be fully assembled when launched, so that means I can't go up there and connect it, or yeah, do a rendezvous and connect multiple pieces. So it just wants to do that in one. And reach the designated equatorial orbit around Kerbal within reasonable deviation. So yeah, it doesn't need me to get these numbers exactly, but close enough to it. And main stability for 10 seconds. Well, that's almost a given. Yeah, unless for some reason you lose control, which in this case we won't. I'm sure it would be possible. Everything's possible in this game, but we should be alright. So this will give me not that much money, but it gives me a bit of reputation. No, it's giving me enough money. Not an extra bit over 114,000. That's not bad. Extra reputation points. So I might even get even cooler missions after that again. This one's fairly easy. And I'll show you why. So let me accept this, and we'll go back. We'll leave facility for now. So if I go into the tracking station, in the tracking station, around the planet, I can now see this line. Yeah, you see this line that's going around it? That's the orbit that's expected from me. Okay, that's where they want me to have my unmanned probe. So I'll be launching from here's normal, end up with an orbit around Kerbin, and then just start spreading out slowly until I reach this orbit around Kerbin. So it's a pretty straightforward mission. Yeah, it doesn't even need that much fuel or anything, so it should be a fairly easy rocket. So let's go straight on to building it. Oh yeah, and it said in it that I have to maintain stability for 10 seconds, okay? So that means I have to hold that satellite there for a whole 10 seconds. Once I've completed that 10 seconds, the mission is complete. Right, so at this point I can use a probe that I know I'll be using for something else, for example. If I want a probe a bit further out than that orbit that I've got to I could put it a bit further out, not a problem. Because at this point in time, I'll have completed the mission. And that's something I might do, so I might consider adding an extra bit of fuel. Right, so let's use our probe Odobodyne. We'll start with that. That's going to be our main capsule as such, but it's a drone. Just so you can see the comparison, so you've got the command pod. There's the size in comparison. So the probe Odobodyne is quite small. I can actually no, just use the parts I have for now. I don't want to waste any parts yet. So I'll just add a fuel tank that size to it. And do I want a service bay on it? I want to have batteries, but give this a quick thought about. I could just, yeah, I'm just going to build a mission for the sake of this. If you want to build a fancier device that orbits, you can do so. Actually, I might as well. Hang on. Okay, so I'm going to leave this for now. Don't save. I might go and buy an extra R&D thing. Let's see if I can get it. Propulsion systems, heavy rocketry, fuel. Because I know I can get smaller pieces. Because right now I'm looking at the probe Odobodyne. It's quite miniaturization. That's what I'm looking for. No, it was a few of small tanks I was looking for. No, maybe I can't unlock that just yet. Well, I'll leave it for now. That's fine. So I'll just build what I was going to build. It's not going to be the nicest small rocket, but whatever. It'll do. Okay, so this, I'll add this fuel tank here. You know what? I will actually put this, make it look a bit nicer than it is, a bit more aerodynamic as well. I will put this inside a service bay. So there, it's inside there. It's like that. Add my batteries. Now, as I've shown before, let's do this first. I can simply do this. Add my batteries to the bottom of this, and they can clip through the bottom without causing any issues. So it will technically be hidden inside my fuel, or inside the fuselage. So let me see. Power. So here's my new battery, the first one I had. Okay, so the rechargeable battery pack that I had 100 electric charge. These ones have 200, even though they're actually smaller than the previous version, which is pretty cool. That saves me quite a bit of hassle. I'll just connect them. Not actually, just one battery will do the trick. Add this. I don't even need that size, I'll just stick with the... Alright, so I will definitely need a reaction wheel, definitely, because this thing is no thrust, or is pretty much no torque, I mean, so you definitely want the extra reaction wheel. Hoping this will work, like this, and add fuel tank. Just like so. No, am I not going to be able to add this? Yeah, well, there we go. Now it's added. That'll do. Okay, so it's rechargeable. I need it to be able to communicate, so I'll put a high grade antenna on it because I might actually use this when I'm up in space. This might actually turn into something that I use. And a solar panel, like so. Okay, so for the, what else did this rocket need? I think that was it. It just had to be rechargeable. Generate power, has an antenna, unmanned. Okay. No, please not this one. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so that's pretty much all the rocket needs to be itself. Or, sorry, the probe. Just going to add a bit of aerodynamics to it so it will actually get to space a bit nicer. And it will need an engine. I'm going to use a small Terrier. Terrier one is pretty good because it doesn't use that much fuel. It's not that powerful either, but for when you're in a vacuum, it's pretty good. You don't want to be using this getting off Kerbal because it's just too slow. It's very slow when it comes to things like that. When you look here, the thrust on it's only 14.7 kN in comparison, or 60 in vacuum comparison to the 45, for example, is 215, or this one, which is 240. So these are quite strong. This one really doesn't have that much thrust, but for out in space, when you know you don't have much to do, it's enough. And this fuel tank will last quite a while with this thing. What can I change on this? Yeah, it's still that. Looks alright. Right, I'm not putting any parachutes on this because this thing isn't coming back. This is going to space, and that's where it will stay. It'll find a new home up in space. So I'll wrong decoupler. So I'll be decoupling this once it's up there. To get up there, I shall build probably something straightforward enough. So yeah, just one tank, 2 fuel tanks, so liquid fuel tanks, Let's do 3 liquid fuel tanks. I will add a 45 swivel at the bottom of this. So you want the swivel just so it makes turning easier. Even though I technically do have better aerodynamics these days, I'll still stick with this. And I will add the Delta Deluxe wing for them, like so. Followed by a side decoupler, 2 side decouplers, I think that should be enough. And on the side, 2 thumpers. The thumper looks a bit much. These ones like so. Hang on, I've got quite a distance to go out. I might want a bit more than that. Let me add 1 additional fuel tank, like so. So let's see how this thing looks size-wise. Will that get me the distance I want? See, if this ends up having more fuel, it's not the end of the world. That's okay, because I can then put it to a further distance than the place it wants me to. There's nothing wrong with me having it a bit further out, because I've got a high-powered antenna on it. And the further I get away from Kerbal, the less signal I have, but the Kerbal signal is quite strong. However, for example, behind the moon or so, I'm not going to have a strong signal. I don't expect to get as far with this one. But even out of that, I want to make sure I can get some distance with it. So I'll just try it like this for now. If it doesn't work out, I can always come back. What size is this? Nah, that's just too big. I don't need a thruster of that size. I'll try it with what I've got. I'm going to call this very boring probe 1. Very boring, but whatever. Okay, let's check. So I've got my side boosters, followed by decouplers, followed by my main booster, followed by that decoupling, followed by the final thing. Yeah, I think that should be okay. Yeah, very straightforward rocket. Let's see how far it gets us. Let's launch. Again, there's nothing on this except for the antenna, battery, solar panel. Oh, and a reaction wheel. That's the only thing that's really on this. So it's very, very basic. Alright, turn on my SAS because this probe has SAS. And here we go. Oof, off to a good start. Quite fast. That's okay. I'm going to reach speed a bit too soon, but that's okay, I think. One thing I'm going to have to watch out for, because I've got solar panel here and antenna on the other side, so it's slightly off balance. Shouldn't be too much. Oops. And goodbye. And let's launch the next rocket. Here we go. I want to make sure I keep an equatorial orbit, so I have to correct this a bit as well. So you're always looking at the yellow symbol to get a good idea of where you're actually heading. This is pointing in the direction there and then, where your nose is pointing, but you want to be looking at this to see where this is actually taking you at that point in time. It's wobbling around a lot. It's okay. So I've got used to the control of it. Okay, let's quickly go to map view, see what's happening here. Collapse is looking good. Go a little bit further forward. Looking good indeed. So So yeah, I would definitely want this rocket to be able to bring me, or this stage to bring me to orbit. Otherwise, I might not quite get what I'm after. Right, straighten out now. There we go. Alright, hold this for a moment. I want to get closer to my apoapsis. I'm already high enough, for now anyway. Right, I'll actually add a maneuver, since we've learned that earlier. So I can add a maneuver so I can actually see how much more acceleration I need to reach a stable orbit. So I'll add to my acceleration, and there we go. You might have noticed the apoapsis and periapsis flipped, because that's me accelerated in far enough that it's higher than the apoapsis. Apoapsis is the higher one, periapsis is the lower one. Okay, so that's why it's flipped, and once it's flipped I know, okay, that one's at least higher than the highest point of the apoapsis that I already have, and therefore I know I'll be in orbit. If I want to have them pretty much equal, I want to have them on both sides of each other. That gives me as close as I'm going to get to equal for now anyway. So that tells me I've got still got a burn of 17 seconds to complete. 1 minute 5 seconds away from that node to do the 17-second burn. So what I want to do, I want to half my 17 seconds, which is about 8.5 seconds. So when I reach at t minus 8 seconds, I want to launch. I want to initiate my burn, so that when the burn time reaches 0, I've got another 8 seconds left to burn. So always half your burn, then do minus t seconds of 8, and then behind it plus 8. So whatever it is, so half it. Do half of the burn before you reach the 0 node, and the other half after the 0 node, so that you split it up. It wouldn't make much difference. I could start at the 0, but all that means is, like, the way this is calculated is that it's calculating from this point. If I did a complete burn, that's where it would bring me. And so yeah, you have to half it. I hope at one point that will become clear, because it's not that easy to explain. Okay, get into position and burn. Okay, definitely in orbit with minimum amount of fuel left. I'm assuming though the last bit of fuel I have hopefully will bring me to orbit. Hopefully. Not a guarantee. Or sorry, to the designated orbit required for this mission. So I've got that apoapsis 82 there and 80 on this side. So it's almost spherical. It's almost good. Okay, so here I can see my ascending and descending nodes. So it's saying 0 degrees, so I'm on the exact same track as what the mission's expecting. Okay, so if I would have deviated off, because as you've seen when we launched, I made sure that I was along the 90-degree mark. So now that we're in space, we're in an equatorial orbit as the mission expected. That's why it's showing a descending node and ascending node of exactly 0 degrees. If I would have deviated, it would then say -1 or +1 degrees or whatever, and then I'd be able to figure out from there how much I'm off, but I actually got it bang on, so happy days. You'll see as well on the map I now have a different symbol, because it recognizes that there's no one on board. It's a probe, so it'll show it as a probe. I can change that, so also, like, looking at map filters, I can choose what I want to see, because if I've got multiple vehicles floating around in space at the same time, it will show me the individual symbols for it, and I can, by going onto the vehicle itself, I can change the symbol. But in this case it makes sense. It is a probe I'm using rather than a manned ship, so I'm just going to leave it as is. And if there was, let's say, one flying here, you'd see its orbit as well flying around, and it would show its symbol, and if you hover over it, same like this one, you'd see the name of it, altitudes, velocity, all the fun stuff. And yeah, if you were trying to filter out certain things, if you didn't want to see probes, you could turn that off here and stuff like that. This one, of course, is always going to show because it's the one I'm using. But like if I had other probes flying around, I could change it. You've got different types of vehicle types. You've got, instead of just probes, you also have space stations, manned probes, rovers, landers, satellites, all different kind of symbols, but you can add them yourself. A lot of times it will choose one for you, but if you know, for example, okay, what I've built there is going to be my space station, then you'll turn it into your space station. The way you change your symbol is when you're on, so your main thing here. So I'd have to, you have to get to the main part of the ship, so your root part of the ship. In this case, it's the Probodiodine itself. And I think I should be able to change it here. Vessel naming. Configure vessel naming. There you go. So yeah, then you choose what you want it to be. So I could change the name of the vehicle if I wanted at this point as well. But it's chosen a relay satellite. So that's perfect. That's all I want to be. Okay, a probe would have looked like that. Relay is okay because that's exactly what it's going to be. I can actually call it something like that. Relay 1 for whatever reason. So I can change it there. Now it's called the Relay 1. Because it's not really working as a probe, it's actually just going to end up circling around Earth. Alright, to get around where I'm trying to go, so what I want to do is I want to place a node, so a navigational node. So let's say, for example, here, because I want to try and get to this apoapsis over here, yeah? So I'll start at the opposite side of it if I can, so which would be around about here. So yeah, what I'm thinking of, I'm looking at this, the line, imaginary line going from here to here. I'm trying to get you to here the easiest way, so I want to start from this side. So I'll go from this side, add a maneuver of acceleration. If I accelerate out, it should bring me to this apoapsis, approximately, like so. I'm only doing it by guesstimation. That's good enough. That should be close enough, and that requires an acceleration of 596 meters per second. Right? I have a total fuel of 2,362 meters per second, so I've got enough delta V to reach this apoapsis. So that's what we're going to do. Burn time 17 seconds. That's including this one, so it's not going to be quite as accurate, because this is going to, it says 17 seconds, but that's counting from this engine. It's not taking into consideration the acceleration of this engine. Right, so this engine is going to have a different acceleration than this one. It's also going to be a different weight, because once I finish this engine and launch it off into space, I'm going to lose all that dead weight. So I'm going to lose all this part. This is all going to disappear, and then I'm going to be stuck with this little bit left, and that's all the engine that's pushing. So even though the engine's weaker, I might get more thrust to weight ratio than this. I'm not sure though, we'll have to see. So I'm going to, it's going to risk it for a biscuit, so I'm going to turn my ship in the direction I need it. It's my blue marker. And I've got to wait 9 minutes, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip time by clicking on this. This will take me to 1 minute before the node. Alright. Okay, I'm going to make things easier for myself, because I've set this up into two different stages left. I'm going to put this into the same stage, so that once I decouple, that the acceleration happens at the same time. Don't have to do that, but I just want to simplify things for myself. Okay, so there's the sun actually, but as you can see, the way I'm facing at the moment, it's not really going to hit my solar panel. Even if I right click on it, it says sun exposure next to 0. Can I turn it in a way that it does get sun exposure? There we go, like that maybe. Yeah, so it's getting a bit of sun exposure, 0.32. So it's really low. I think that means 32%. If it was on 1, that means I'm getting full sunlight on it. And then if I look at my battery, you should see it's starting to charge. Yeah, there you go, 187. So it's slowly charging. And yeah, so that's good. So even with a little bit of exposure to the sunlight, that will assist me in gaining more energy. So that's good. Oh, but it's pushed me off target. Oh, I've even passed my target. Oh well, doesn't matter. accelerate anyway. I was too busy talking. Oh well. That's alright though. It's not the end of the world. If I end up making a mistake, I can go back again. Finish my burn as planned. Right, let's see, how close did I get? Yeah, I'm still a bit off. Let me accelerate a bit further. See my output's getting close enough. And stop. Okay, let's have a look. So the expected apoapsis compared to my real apoapsis is close enough. I mean, again, the mission allows me to be within margin. Okay, so the next thing I do is I wait till I go all the way around here, following my line that I've already done, till I reach my apoapsis, and do another burn to try and reach this periapsis, which should be easy enough. So what I do, again, I mark on my apoapsis, so the part that I want to start accelerating, add maneuver, and simply start accelerating until I reach the opposite side periapsis. That looks about right. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So that's saying I have to do a burn of 238 meters per second, and I have 1,900 left. So easy peasy. Even if I make mistakes, if I have to make deviations, that mission should be afterwards complete. So I'm going to turn my ship slightly in this direction for now, if it lets me, just so that I can get the sun exposure. You see now, I've got full exposure to the sun, and the charge is already full anyway, so I don't technically need it, but I'll just leave it that anyway. And at this point as well, I can also extend my antenna if I want. There's no like, this is not going to affect my flight anymore, even though it's sticking out, because there's no wind, there's no atmosphere, so there's no traction. There's nothing going to slow me down. This can't be slowed down because of it. There's nothing slowing it down. So this sticking out isn't going to matter. If I had a big arm going off the side of a ship, it could matter. But this is, I believe this in the game is considered no mass, so it shouldn't turn me off. If it was heavier off to the left side of the ship, it would make the ship start turning left, but I think this won't. Actually, you know what, I'm going to leave it in for now because I don't need it anyway. But this shouldn't matter. Like there's no surface tension or that, so it shouldn't cause an issue. Okay, so I'm going to skip time to 1 minute before. Oh, where's the Earth? There, it's over there. Okay, let's turn to the position it wants us, and you can see now the vehicle's really easy to move. It's really quick because the reaction wheel, because the weight of the ship is next to nothing at this point in time. It's the easiest thing to turn. Okay, so I've got to burn 6 seconds, 40 seconds away. So I'll start 3 seconds before, or so T minus 3 seconds where I'll start. Burn past the 0 until I reach plus 3, or T plus 3. Okay, so again I'm halving the burn time. It's so pretty. Okay, because I'm using I've got the time, yes, because I'm using a drone, this always uses electric charge, so I'm always burning electric charge. Now that I'm out of the sun, it's always going to burn. It's always going to use up electricity and burn. And stop. Let's have a look. Close this off. Looks pretty decent. Oh, and there you go. Contract complete, because I held as they wanted me. They wanted me to stay stable in this orbit for 10 seconds. I've done so. Completion rewards 82,000. Nice, plus reputation points. I can delete that because it's done anyway. And with that, this mission is complete. Okay, so the last thing I will do because I'll be using this ship again later at some point, because I've got loads of fuel in it, and I've got the antenna on it, so I can turn this into yeah, a relay point. So I can use this as an antenna, and it'll assist me. Like I could send this out way far out from Kerbal, and it would still be able to connect with Kerbin, and I could use this as a relay point for information I'm sending back from another ship, for example. So I'll keep this for now. I've got the fuel in it, but I don't need it anywhere specific. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it in such a way that it's facing the sun, or the yeah, the photovoltaic panels are facing the sun. Yeah, let's do full exposure. Close that off. Don't need to, but I will. There we go. Now this thing can just continue floating around forever, technically. This is just going to stay in an orbit. In this orbit you see here, going around the Earth, or going around Kerbin. Very simple. So I will just simply go back to map, and all I have to do here is go out and back to the Space Center. Okay, there we go. That mission as such is complete. That thing will now, yeah, as I said, that thing will just continue flying around orbit. So I can come back to that at a later date, or whenever I fancy, or just leave it there forever. Whatever. It's fully powered now because I've got the photovoltaic solar panel on it. Now, what does change when going over many months, it will slightly change. If it's up there for a while, it won't necessarily always be in the right angle towards the sun, or it definitely won't be in the right angle towards the sun. But for now, it's okay. If I wanted to be safe to make sure that thing always has charge, I would simply be able to. I'll just quickly show. So yeah, now I can see here. Here's my ship that I've got out there, the Relay 1, and it's showing you its orbit around here. Ignore that northern orbit for now, but we've got this one going around here. That's there's the orbit of my vehicle. All these lines you're seeing going in there, that's just connection points back to Earth or back to Kerbin. But let me quickly go back onto it, so I'll double click onto it. I want to make sure I definitely save it, like, because it can happen that at one point when I go around the sun, or following Kerbin going around the sun, if Kerbin's then all the way around on the other side of the sun, this thing will be facing the wrong way. And I'd have to turn it back to be able to make sure that it has enough, or I'd have to turn it back to keep it powered. However, it will use the battery, as we've seen. The main engine keeps, or the Probodobodyne uses the power the whole time just to stay stable. One thing I could do, I could turn off SAS, or what I could simply do is, like, if I right click on the Probodobodyne itself, I can switch off the electric charge here. What that means then, the batteries will continue to charge, but the electric charge within the Probodobodyne will stay. So that 10 out of 10, that would be enough for me to reposition this satellite into a position that I could regain energy. You can also turn the power off on the battery itself, but I want the battery because I want this antenna to work. Like, if the energy runs out, then it also does this battery, which I don't want to do. So yeah, that's all this video for now. See you soon in the next one.